Halloween night in the small town of Briarwood was always a festive affair. Children dressed as witches, ghosts, and superheroes roamed the streets, their laughter echoing through the cool October air. But in 1986, the town's annual celebration took a dark turn that would leave a permanent scar on its history. It started as any other Halloween. Neighbors decorated their homes with carved pumpkins, fake cobwebs, and eerie lights. The streets were filled with costumed trick-or-treaters, and the local high school was hosting its yearly Halloween party. It was a night of harmless fun until it wasn't. The first sign that something was wrong came when a scream pierced the night. It was shrill and desperate, cutting through the noise of the festivities. People paused, looking around nervously, but then the music started again, and the party went on. No one knew that the scream had come from 17-year-old Sarah Williams, who had just stumbled upon a scene of horror in the alley behind the school. Lying in a pool of blood was Jason Reynolds, one of the most popular boys in school. He was dressed as a vampire, his costume now soaked in red that wasn't just fake blood. Sarah stood frozen, her eyes wide with shock as she saw the figure standing over Jason. The man was tall, dressed in black, and wore a grotesque mask, a twisted, grinning face that sent chills down her spine. The masked man noticed Sarah, and for a moment, their eyes locked. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as fear paralyzed her. Then, without a word, the man turned and vanished into the shadows, leaving Sarah alone with the gruesome sight. By the time the police arrived, the masked murderer was long gone. There were no witnesses, no fingerprints, no clues, nothing but the lingering terror that gripped the town. Jason Reynolds was pronounced dead at the scene, and Briarwood's Halloween would never be the same again. The town was in shock. Parents kept their children inside, doors were locked, and rumors spread like wildfire. Who was the masked man? Why did he target Jason? And, most chilling of all, would he strike again? The investigation dragged on for weeks, but the police were at a loss. Every lead led to a dead end, and as the days turned into months, hope began to fade. The masked murderer had seemingly vanished without a trace, leaving behind only fear and unanswered questions. Years passed, but the memory of that night lingered. Every Halloween, whispers of the masked murderer would resurface, and Briarwood streets would grow eerily quiet. No one ever felt safe again. Then, on the 10th anniversary of the murder, a package arrived at the police station. Inside was the masked grinning face that had haunted Sarah's nightmares for a decade. But there was no note, no explanation, just the mask and a single word scrawled inside: Sue. The masked murderer had never been caught. And now, it seemed, he was ready to return. They say that Halloween is the night when the veil between worlds is thinnest. A time when the spirits of the dead roam freely and ancient powers awaken. But few dare to speak of the ritual that can tear that veil open completely, a ritual that, if performed at the stroke of midnight, can open a portal to another world. It was called the witching hour ritual, whispered about in hushed tones, passed down through generations of those who knew better than to try it. The instructions were simple, yet chilling. At exactly 11:59 p.m. on Halloween night, find a secluded spot somewhere far from prying eyes. You would need a mirror, a candle, and a piece of chalk. Draw a circle on the ground with the chalk, place the candle in the center, and light it. Then, hold the mirror in front of you and wait. As the clock ticks closer to midnight, you'll start to feel a change in the air. The wind will die down, the night will grow still, and an uneasy silence will settle over you. The moment the clock strikes 12, stare into the mirror, focusing on your reflection. Then, in a low voice, recite the words that have been passed down through the ages. Spirits of the dark, hear my plea. Open the gate, and let me see. Legend has it that if done correctly, the mirror will fog up, and you'll begin to see images not of your world, but of another. You'll catch glimpses of shadowy figures, dark landscapes, and places that defy logic and reason. But be warned, this is not just a glimpse into another world. The portal will open and something might cross over. Many have claimed that the ritual is just a myth or tale to scare children on Halloween. But those who have tried it know better. Consider the story of Emily Hayes, a curious 19-year-old who thought it would be fun to try the ritual with her friends. It was all a joke to them, just another way to pass the time on a boring Halloween night. They gathered in an abandoned house on the outskirts of town, laughing and teasing as they set up for the ritual. Emily didn't believe in ghosts or spirits, and she certainly didn't believe in opening portals to other worlds. But as the clock struck midnight and she stared into the mirror, something changed. The laughter stopped, and a heavy silence filled the room. Her friends watched in horror as the mirror began to fog up, just as the legend said it would. Then, without warning, Emily screamed. Her reflection in the mirror twisted, her face contorting into a look of pure terror. She dropped the mirror, shattering it on the ground, but the damage was done. That night, Emily's friends found her standing in the center of the circle, her eyes vacant, her body trembling. She never spoke again of what she saw in that mirror. But from that night on, she was never the same. The house where they performed the ritual is now abandoned, and locals say that strange noises can be heard. Coming from it at night, whispers, footsteps, and the occasional blood-curdling scream. Some say the portal was never closed, that it remains open to this day, waiting for the next foolish soul to step into the circle and speak the words that should never be spoken. So, if you're brave enough to try the witching hour ritual this Halloween, remember this: the portal opens both ways. And once you've opened it, there's no telling what might come through. There's something about old dolls that unnerves even the bravest among you. Their glassy eyes, frozen smiles, and the way they seem to watch your every move. But none are as terrifying as the infamous doll that cries blood. The legend of the blood-crying doll began over a century ago, in a small town where strange things were whispered about behind closed doors. The doll, with porcelain skin and flowing auburn hair, was a gift to a little girl named Annabelle on her 6th birthday. It was a beautiful doll, handcrafted and detailed down to the last delicate eyelash. But there was something about it that made people uneasy. Annabelle loved her doll, but soon after receiving it, strange things started happening. The doll would move on its own, turning its head to face whoever was in the room. And then, the crying started. At first, Annabelle's parents thought it was just a trick of the light or a child's imagination. But one night, as they tucked Annabelle into bed, they saw it for themselves, thick, crimson tears streaming down the doll's face. Terrified, they tried to get rid of it, throwing it into the river. But the doll always found its way back, its blood-red tears staining the hands of those who touched it. As Halloween approached, the townspeople grew more and more fearful. The doll's cries were heard late at night, echoing through the streets. Annabelle's health began to decline. She became pale, withdrawn, and often stared off into the distance, as if seeing something no one else could. On Halloween night, Annabelle was found in her bed, cold and lifeless, the doll clutched tightly in her arms. Blood-streaked tears covered its porcelain cheeks. After Annabelle's death, the doll was passed from owner to owner, each meeting a similarly tragic fate. One family locked it in a chest and buried it deep in the woods. But it always returned, its tears of blood staining the floors where it was found. Another family tried to destroy it, smashing it with hammers and setting it on fire. But the doll remained unscathed, its eyes gleaming with a malevolent glow. Over the years, the doll became known as cursed, and those who encountered it were never the same. Some went mad, driven to insanity by the doll's incessant crying. Others simply vanished, leaving nothing behind but the doll, its bloody tears pooling beneath it. Now, the doll's whereabouts are unknown, but every Halloween, whispers spread through the town of its return. Some say it's waiting for its next victim, hidden away in an attic or a dusty old shop, ready to bring horror to those who dare to keep it. So, if you ever come across an old doll with auburn hair and a porcelain face, think twice before taking it home, especially on Halloween night. Because once you have it, the curse will follow you, and no matter how far you run or how hard you try to get rid of it, the doll will always come back. And when it does, its blood-filled tears will be the last thing you see. Thanks for joining us on this spine-chilling journey into the unknown. If you enjoyed these eerie tales and spine-tingling stories, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Have your own creepy experiences or know a legend that needs to be told? Drop them in the comments or send us a message. And remember, the world is full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Stay curious, stay cautious, and until next time, keep your lights on and your eyes open. Sweet nightmares.